Okay, Shalom Aleichem and welcome. We're going to learn the Sicha in Chelik Yud Zayin, the Sicha Erev Pesach. It's a very short, but very, very lumdish and straight to the point Sicha with a lot of halachic issues. And it's especially connected to this year when Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos. Primarily, it's about the fast of the Bechurim, which usually is done on Erev Pesach, and this year it's on Shabbos, so you can't do it on Erev Pesach. So how does halacha look at the fast when it's done a couple of days earlier? All right, let's read it inside. That's Chelik Yud Zayin, Amid 66, Aleph. When Erev Pesach is Chol b'Shabbos, when Erev Pesach falls out to be on Shabbos, When Erev Pesach falls out to be on Shabbos, v'dekvius van heintig yar, like as it is this year, is their din. So the halacha is as their tainus b'chayros, v'nitcha from Erev Pesach to Yom Hei Shelofano. So there's an opinion that says, and that's the halacha, that instead of fasting on Shabbos, which you're not allowed to, you don't fast on Friday either. You fast Thursday, 2 days early. Nitli Yom Vav Erev Shabbos, Kodesh, and it's not just 1 day early on Friday. While Tzulib Kavod Shabbos, because of the honor of Shabbos, is Men Lechatchila Nitkeveya Tainus Be'erev Shabbos. You're not allowed to officially establish a fast on Friday. And therefore, if you can't fast on Shabbos, it goes back 2 days. It goes back Thursday. And the artist, the Rebbe writes to Mari Mekaymus A, number one, how do we know we turn it back on to Thursday? And B, what's the sources that on Friday you're not kivei ataynes lechatchila? Says the Rebbe, stellt sich the shaila. However, the question is, for whatever reason, somebody didn't fast on the Thursday. Why wouldn't he fast on Thursday? So the Rebbe says, well, it's for guessing. He didn't realize that this year the tainus is so much before Pesach. He wasn't aware that on Thursday, 3 days before Pesach or 2 days before Erev Pesach, he has to fast. So he forgot about it. So he didn't fast on Thursday. See in their files, they'll fasting b'yom vav erev Shabbos kodesh. Should he, because he realizes on Thursday he didn't fast, should he fast on Friday? And the Rebbe in the Ara 4 says, ubefrat, especially that there is an opinion that says that lechatchila, when Shabbos falls out, when Erev Pesach falls on a Shabbos, you fast on Friday. We don't paskin that way, but there is a Birkei Yosef that says that that's how it should be done. We do it on Thursday. So if a person forgot to fast on Thursday, should he fast on Friday? In the brackets, explains the Rebbe, what's the reason why he should fast? Well, because after all, the reason why you don't fast on Friday Erev Shabbos is esnar, it's only a aleph lechatchila. Lechatchila, you don't fast on Fridays. And B and is Farin Sibur. That's a community fast you don't establish on a Friday. But if a personal, individual person made a mistake and forgot, so A, it wasn't keveya, it happens, and B, it's a private thing, it's an individual thing. However, in this case, Hayois Aleph Esses B'di'evid, it's only a mistake that he's asking should he fast on Friday. He should have fasted on Thursday, but it's too late. So it's a b'di'evid, not a lechatchila. It's only about an individual asking the question and not a community fast. In other words, says the Rebbe, if you want to understand the question from a different angle, geder tchia satainis, the fact that the fast gets pushed off from its real day, Erev Pesach, kememaz b'zayin of tzvei efanim, could be explained in one of two ways, and depending on how you accept what the fast looks like 2 days earlier, it will tell you if you have permission to fast on Friday. Aleph, one way to explain this. Das was man fast b'yom hey is tashlumim from Erev Pesach, that the reason why you're fasting on Thursday is to make up. It's only to make up. Really, you should be fasting at Erev Pesach on Shabbos. But really, since you can, so you're making it up this way. Aber be'etzem, really, like them chiyuv even tag from Erev Pesach. Really, the real chiyuv is Erev Pesach on Shabbos. It's just because of issues. So we found a solution, but it's not really how it should be done. So lefiza, if that's the way you look at the Thursday's fast, the early Thursday's fast of the Tainus Becherim, Darf Oiskumen, if you analyze it that way, it has to come out as Oiber Nitke fast b'yom hey. For whatever reason, a person didn't fast on Thursday, is noch nit weggegangen in the chiyuv, so he never fulfilled his obligation because Thursday it wasn't real obligation. Darf mashlim sein dem Tainus b'yom erev Shabbos kodesh. So when Friday comes in, and that's the only last opportunity when he can fulfill his obligation, he should do it on Friday. That's because Thursday was only a plan B. It should in the good times, it should be on at a Pesach on Shabbos. Bays. However, there's another way to look at it. Hagam az melechat chila is the tchiyah from Tainus and Inyan Shel Tashlumim from Erev Pesach, even though correct. I really want you to fast on Erev Pesach, which this year is Shabbos. And I'm pushing it off to Thursday. And the very fact that we're doing it earlier to Thursday and not Friday is misadat sibetz davis. That's just a side point. Why I don't do it on Thursday? And that the side point is you never establish a fast on a Friday. If for whatever reason it was established that due to the circumstance you should do it on Thursday, once because of the circumstance, even for side reasons, Thursday is the day, is Yom Hey Gevarim Desman Achil. We look at that Thursday's fast day as the day of when you're supposed to fast. So if you missed it, then it's over. You shouldn't fast on Friday because the obligation has passed. So the two ways to look at it is Thursday, the day of the fulfilling the obligation of fasting, or it's just a makeup. If it's a makeup, you missed the makeup, finish. I can't allow you to fast on Friday. If because of circumstance this becomes the day of the chiyuv, then you still have to have the chiyuv. Ukiyadua, as the Rebbe says, me'ein dugma to them bedinei sukkah. A similar discussion that you can compare this to is a case in Hilchas Sukkah. The Tzvei Deyes, there are two opinions by Nisarim sheyesh b'am arba. There are certain beams or woods that are big enough that create a problem, an issue as schach for sukkah because it's big enough that it's arba, it's 4 tefachim big. So im hafcham al tzideim, he didn't lay it flat that you could see the whole 4 tefachim. He turned it around on the side, and the side versus pachas migimel. And when he lays it that way, it is less than dalet tefachim. It's less than gimel. Plus light ein man da amar. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, according to one opinion, it says in halacha that according to one opinion, because he laid it in such a way that even though in reality it's taka bigger than 4 tefachim, but because he laid it hafchal tzidayim is like ein mandar amar. According to one opinion, is this a schach kosher? It's right now as is. It's kosher. The tzveita mandar amar zaktaber. However, the other opinion says psula. This beam is puzzle. But chach as hafcham al tzidayim, even though he turned it around in a way that you can't see the whole dalet tefachim. Nevertheless, vibalt aber as yesh shem psula, because this item, these nesarim, these boards have they became in essence a puzzle-dicker thing to be used. Bitzav them but yesh behem arba, because they're too big in size. Nasu keshvudim shel matches. we have to look at those boards, even though there's ways how you could turn it around. It's like a metal spit, just like a metal spit. You're never allowed to use the metal spit as a schach. It doesn't fit the halach of schach. So too the board, because it's arba, it's big enough arba, it's puzzle. If you twist it, you don't see, it doesn't cover dalid. No, because once it's a board that has dalid fachim, it is a shame sul. So according to the second hasbara, the Rebbe used that as an example, as that the boards, once it has the same sul, even if you finagle it around, you can't change it. So back to our issue: if the Thursday is the day of the chiyuv, if it's the day of the chiyuv, then you can't let the chiyuv, once the chiyuv passes, it's over. Unlike the Tzveitar Hasbara, according to the second way of explaining how to look at the Thursday's fast, if for whatever reason you didn't fast on Thursday, you don't have to fulfill the fast on Friday. Because the day when the chiyuv happened has passed. Meaning to say like this: the first way how to look at the Thursday's fast is it's a band-aid. It's a makeup. So if you didn't make it up on Thursday, make it up on Friday. But the second way to do it is, it's not a makeup. That's the day you have to do it. So if you didn't do it on that day, you missed it. Friday, there's no point in doing it. Friday's not the day anymore. The Rebbe in Ha'ara 6, the Rebbe says that first of all, al derech hashayla b'gzeiras d'Rabbanan b'chlal, you could compare this to the general discussion of every gzeira d'Rabbanan. Ha'im nasa isur be'etzem, when the Rabbanan make a gzeira because of a prevention to protect us from being over isur d'oraisa, does that protection become an isur, an essence of an isur? Or it's just a reason to protect something else. It's just preventive medicine. But even the Rebbe says, another way how to look at it, do we say that when you're fasting on Thursday because you can't fast on Shabbos, is it just like pushed away from Shabbos? And okay, you have no other choice. Let's do it on Thursday. So if you have other choices because you missed Thursday, do it again on Friday. Try to do it on Friday. Or do we say, or do we say every time Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos, the takana is you should fast on Thursday. And if the takana is that way, once it passes, it passes. What's the reason that once it passes, it passes? So the Rebbe says in the Ara 9, because after all, there is an opinion in Shulchan Aruch that holds that if Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos, you don't fast at all. Since you can't fast on Shabbos, there's no reason to make it early. And once it passes Shabbos, it's over the time anyways, because it's past Erev Pesach, it's Pesach. So since there is that opinion, maybe it's over. Beis. The Chayra Kamenes upline and when I didn't mefurish by Tainus Esther, says the Rebbe, maybe we could compare this issue, how you look at a fast day on early fast day on Thursday, early Tainus B'chayrim, similar to a shaila that we have by Tainus Esther, a very similar shaila. Then Purim is Chol B'Yom Aleph. Tainus Esther we know is the day before Purim. Purim is able to fall out on Sunday. If Purim falls on a Sunday, so the day before Purim is Shabbos. You can't fast on Shabbos. So too over there, you can't fast on Shabbos Tainus Esther. So you back it up a couple of days to Thursday. Thursdays when you fast Tainus Esther. What happens? The Shulchan Aruch discusses what happens if on that Thursday, which is the new Tainus Esther, there is a bris milah. Paskin the Ramah, so the Ramah and Shulchan Aruch Paskins, mutar lechel ala mila. The people who are involved in the bris are allowed to eat. It's a fast day. Ulamachar b'yayim vav yisanu ha'eichlim. Whoever ate during the bris milah should fast to make up for the Tainus Esther. Fast on Friday. But from them is clear. It seems to be pretty clear. As their mitzvah Tainus Esther is gevar nitcha nikva b'yayim hay, that the fact that Tainus Esther became established that it's being that it can't be on Shabbos, you do it on Thursday. Haste does nit as their tug is governed as manachiyuv. It doesn't mean that became the day of the fulfilling the obligation. That's one of the options. Now it says blois tashlumim yom Shabbos. It's a good way to make up what you can't do on Shabbos. Under river, and therefore, if you didn't make it up that way, kemen esmashlum zayin b'yom vav. The halacha says do it on Friday. So the Rebbe writes, Umasha Kosev B'Tasham. The Taz writes, Shalo Yisana B'Erev Shabbos, that preferably he shouldn't fast on Friday. He should eat the bris milah meal at night. It's better to eat the bris milah meal on Thursday night instead of eating it Thursday the day when it is the day of Tainus Esther. Better than fasting on Friday. Says the Rebbe, Hurak Mishum Desvirale, it's only because the Taz howls the Gam Yachid English Sanis Erev Shabbos but they cover Shabbos. It's because he holds that even an individual shouldn't fast on Friday because it's at a covered Shabbos. And the Rebbe quotes from the Shari Tshuva, the Misha Shachach Lisanis B'Yom Hey. According to this, that if somebody forgot to fast on Thursday, on the Tainus Esther, even the Taz agrees that a person who didn't fast that Tainus Esther on Thursday will have to fast on that of Shabbos. So the Cha'ira, from both of these conversations, it's mashma, just like by Tainus Esther, those who didn't, whatever reason, fast on Thursday. Shulchan Aruch says the Ramah says you fast on Friday. The same should be by the Tainus B'Chayrim. If somebody forgot, he should fast on Friday. According to this, comes out as is oich ben yonein. The same should be in our halacha. B'negayas to Tainus B'Chayris. You could compare Tainus B'Chayris to Tainus Esther. The Rebbe brings in Ara 13 from the Prima Godim that a istanis b'char that shetzom be'erev Pesach, the erev Pesach chol b'Shabbos, he should fast on Friday. So we see that again there are clear halachas that allow you to fast on Friday. That means that shows that the Thursday is not the fixed day for this tainus. However, back by the words of the Rebbe, Aber Yeshraya, nevertheless, there is a proof as the Chiyuv Tainus from Tainus B'Chayris is Ibiger Trogen Gevarn of Yom Hey, even though I just proved to you from the comparison to Tainus Esther that the Thursday fast is not fixed; it's just a tashlumim. I could bring you a raya. The Tainus B'Chayris is different. That when Tainus B'Chayris is backtracked to Thursday, it means it's a fixed day, fixed fast day. How could I prove this to you? Says the Rebbe, in this Pasha the minig, it's accepted the minig as a start to fast in Erev Pesach. The minig became that instead of fasting in Erev Pesach, Zayin the B'Chayris mishtativ dem tag in Asiyam B'Seches. It became that instead of fasting, they participate in the Siyam Masechta, which becomes a Sudas Mitzvah. And by having a Sudas Mitzvah, the Tainus expires. You don't have to have a Tainus. And if Erev Pesach falls out in Shabbos, is Minag Yisrael as Memach the Siyam B'Yom Hey. So the custom is, instead of making the Siyam on Shabbos, when it's Erev Pesach, you make it on Thursday. That really doesn't make sense. Mela to say on the day I have to fast. I transfer it into a siyum. I swap it into a siyum. I understand. But if Thursday is just a tashlumim, why I should really make the siyum on Shabbos? Is bishloima, says the Rebbe. That would make sense if the Yom Hay is governed as manatainis. If the Yom Hay, Thursday's fast, became the fixed day, the real day of the fast, is moving as the shtatfus and the siyum Yom Hay is mevatel dem chiyuv atainis of tug. That makes very well sense that instead of fasting, participate in the siyum mitzvah, it replaces the fasting. Unoch dem Yom Hay, and once you participated with that way, then when Thursday fasted, when Thursday passes, is shaynishtake chiyuv tainis. There's no more obligation to fast. That's because you passed your test on the Thursday. Oy, Baba, the Yom Hay is as man tashlumim tzechiyuv v'nachdem. If the way you look at it, however, is Thursday just to fix up what you can't do later on for an Erev Pesach Shabbos, wie can the siyum b'Yom Hay mevatel zayin achiyuv tainis versus an another tug? How does it make sense that if I participate in the siyum on Thursday, that erases my obligation of fasting that I have to do on Friday, that I have to do on Shabbos? What does one have to do on another? For an Erev Pesach Shabbos. I mean, my obligation really starts on Shabbos. So how is it that I make a siyum on Thursday, takes away that obligation? And therefore, either Yisana b'Yom Avav, either he should fast on Friday, or the Machin Nocha siyum b'Yom Avav, at least make another siyum on Friday. Why are you saying that the pushback is enough with a siyum 2 days earlier? That seems to prove that the 2 day earlier siyum, the 2 day earlier fast day, is the real day when, during these calendar years, is when the fasting has to take place. Gimel. You could push away what we just said, like the Azogin, like Gevissa Achrayim, as it's explained in some of the Achrayim. The Rebbe quotes this from the Shalos Teshuvos Haregis Abaysim. As the Oiftu from Siyum B'Erev Pesach, what the whole basis I just said is the fact that the fast could be replaced with the Siyum. Why does that really make sense? So the Arugas Abaysim says that the whole accomplishment from making a siyum b'Erev Pesach is it's not only in them. It's not because you're supposed to fast on that day, and you're changing, and because you made a siyum, now the siyum makes a sudas mitzvah. The sudas mitzvah you're allowed to eat. The whole point of the fasting is not so you should be able to eat. That's really not the point. Really, there's a double point here, as the siyum is b'makom atainis. That because we want you to fast, because of whatever reason of the Bechayrim being saved, we establish a fast. There's another thing that could replace it. In other words, it could either be done through a fast or through a siyum. Not that siyum is allows you to eat, gives you an exemption. It's what you're looking to accomplish during that day of Erev Pesach could be either done through fasting or through siyum. The time from Tainas B'Chayres, because you check up and you realize why is the Shulchan Aruch say that you even should fast on Erev Pesach? Why is there such a thing as a Tainas B'Chayres? To make a remembrance of the fact that the B'Chayres, the Jewish firstborns, were saved. So that's the way you show it, by fasting. That's the way you show it. You show it by fasting. It's a zecher. And guess what? There's another way to make the zecher could be done through another way. Unasiyum maseches v'sudas mitzvah is das gufa zecher in this. You could make a remembrance by fasting. There's another way to make a remembrance. It's not an exemption for you to eat. It's a way to show remembrance of that you were saved. Thank you, Hashem. I made a siyum masechta. And the Rebbe in Ara 17 says, based on this way of thinking, it's simply understood. Why is the tainus pushed away when you make a siyum, and you're allowed to eat the whole day. You're allowed to eat the whole day once you heard a siyum. Even though the misha shachach va'achal b'tainis sibur mashlim atainis. Even though the halacha is if somebody eats during a tainis sibur, he still has to make up the rest of the tainis. Why over here it's completely pushed away? Because it's not an inyan to fast necessarily. The inyan is to make a zecher. So when you accomplish the zecher through another way, i.e., through making a siyum, you're done. You don't need the tainis anymore. Al pizeh. So if that's the way you look at a siyum, is masbik the siyum from Yom Hey, then I understand why if Pesach, Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos, and you're doing it already on Thursday, so the siyum on Thursday covers everything. Even if you will accept as the chiyuv atainis dan is belois tashlumim Erev Pesach, even if you say that on Thursday it's only a tashlumim, only a replacement for Shabbos, but it's not the real day. Nevertheless, if you make a siyum that day, that's perfect. Why? Because all we're looking to get from you is a zeichel nes. If you make a siyum, you did the zeichel nes. It doesn't make a difference that you did it on Thursday. So that's not a raya, says the Rebbe. The fact that the siyum is made on Thursday is not a raya that Thursday is the real day. It could be that Thursday is even a tashlumim. As long as you made a zeichel nes, you're off the hook. Says the Rebbe, but das is nishois gehalten. That's not correct. Varum, since Adarabba, on the contrary, loit svara, according to this understanding, as the siyum gufa tutov them zeichel nes, that the actual making of the siyum is a way how to show a zeichel nes. Volkedarft oiskumen should have been as mazomachem asim oichen tag from Shabbos Erev Pesach. Why are we pushing it off, Bechlal? If this person is able to make a siyum, why is he even doing it on Thursday? Why not do it on Shabbos, the real day, Erev Pesach? We're not allowed to fast on Erev Pesach, but you're allowed to make a siyum on Erev Pesach. If the siyum is on par, it's choice. Either do it through a tainis or through a siyum, to do the siyum on Shabbos. From Vibal, we can then zeichel nes machen in the tug. Since you're able to make this type of zeichel nes, even in the day, in welchen es is lechatchil nikigvarin, in the day, the original day that it's officially established, i.e., Erev Pesach, and Erev Pesach is this year in Shabbos, which you're allowed to make a siyum. The reason why it's best to do it in Erev Pesach, because it's closest to the time when the original nes happened. Why is it good enough if you made this zecher a day or two earlier? Why don't you make it on Shabbos? The reason why you should make a siyum on Thursday, nit yoytze sein, mit machasim b'yom Shabbos, Erev Pesach, and not to rely just on the siyum you make on Shabbos. That Kevin Fanford, that I can answer you why just to make one on Shabbos is not good enough. You also should make one on Thursday. Why? Since what comes first is Thursday. If somebody can't make a siyum, so he's supposed to fast on Thursday. And when Thursday arrives, there is a chiyuv tainis. Kemen the chiyuv tainis nitva beißen durch hasiyum atoga letzveish better. You can't, as Thursday passes, you can't say, I'm ignoring Thursday. I'm relying on the fact that on Shabbos at a Pesach, a day or two later, I'm going to make a zeichel nes. I'm going to make the siyum. Because the chiyuv tainis for most of the people who are not making a siyum, you have to answer Thursday. Says the Rebbe, as hataba yegadar zayin the minig al kapanim lehidr mitzvah. At least there should have been a minig, at least lehidr, A person should make 2 siyumim. Azeichel and this in tug from Erev Pesach Atzmai. A person should make something on Thursday to push away the fast, and at least the day closest to the Zeichel and Nes, the day which is originally the day when you're supposed to make the Zeichel and Nes, and Erev Pesach, make another siyum then. Von dem, was mir gefunden, als seine Minig zu machen, als siyum euch bei Yom Shabbos upon him. And since we don't find anybody doing that, we don't find people making 2 siyumim. People only make 1 siyum on the Thursday, and they're clear. Is muchach kanal? Isn't that a clear proof? As in den tug, that in the day of Thursday and also Friday afterwards, once you cleared the waves on Thursday and you made either a fast or you made a zeichel nes by making a siyum, you're finished. There's no more chiyuv. It was taken out. Every part of the responsibility of what to do out of Pesach was replaced in these years to Thursday. So once you take care of it Thursday, it's over. Says Nishken Raya, there is no proof. Was by Tainus Esther gefitmen ja as mekem mashlim zayin the Tainus b'yom vov. You can't compare this to what by Tainus Esther we find that in the case we mentioned earlier, you could replace it, you could continue it and fast on Friday. Because amongst the Takanas Rabbanon, you can't compare one to another. There's so many differences. Of course, you can't say that proves as ein Takanas Rabbanon is punkt in ear from the Proten Satzveta. You can't say just like this Takana was established with these rules, the same any other Takana Rabbanon must have those same rules and regulations. No, the Rabbanon in each situation made their own gezeres. Ubefrat binyanenu, especially in our case, to compare Tainus Esther to Tainus B'chayrim, is da tam lechalik sufficient Tainus Esther and Tainus B'chayris. There is a big difference between the 2 Tainesim. Tainus Esther is nikivu gvarim bizmano b'yud gimel adar. Tainus Esther was established to be at Yud Gimel Adar. You know why Yud Gimel Adar? Well, in their tug, because that day, Nikalu Lamed al Nashim. That was the day the Yidden fought back. And when the Yidden fought, there was a fast day, davening and crying to Hashem that the Eibishter should help them. So that's the day you should fast. Unatchia. And if you have to push it away from that original day, why would you have to push it away? When the Tainus Esther falls on a Shabbos, so you push it away. Liyoim hey, that is a chidush v'hisafa of Ikar Takana. That's special. That's not what originally was. Originally, it should be the day the war took place. Okay, there's a chidush that if you can't do it then, do it earlier. There's a concept of tashlumin. Mashenk and Tainus B'chayris. However, when we fast for the miracle of the B'chayris, it's never on the day, the time it happened. Is Ikar Takana Tainus D'chuya. From the get-go, this original Takana is already pushed off from its original date. Varm Zimana is Tezvav B'nissen. When did Makas B'chayris happen? Tezvav B'nissen. And we're even in regular years, we're not fasting Tezvav B'nissen, we're fasting Yudalid. No, men is Mdoicha. Magdim B'Yudalid, Mishum De'ef Shebeyomtiv. The reason we fast in Erev Pesach and the regular year, if you're not making a siyum, because you can't fast on Yom Tiv, is the Zelba Ikar Atakana Badam Dechia Mitzadam E Efsher Shem Dechia Acharu. Once it's already pushed off, it's already pushed off. So you can't compare the two. Why over there we want it to be, why by Tainus Esther will tell you you should still fast on Friday. The same should be by Tainus B'chayris. Eis Dalid. The Hezbar Agdoras from the Chios Satinis, Basbaras Ageder from the Chios Satinis, explaining how to look at a fast that's being pushed off to a different date, is Oich Toli and Anaf Gemina Halacha. Also has another difference halacha. Before we spoke about the halacha, if you couldn't fast on that day, should you fast on Friday? Should you fast on another to make up, or once it passes, it passes. But there's another nafkamina. By a cotton shehigdol be'erev Pesach shechol b'Shabbos. What happened? There's a youngster, a cotton, and he became a gadol. His bar mitzvah was erev Pesach Shabbos. Erev Pesach Shabbos. In other words, Thursday he was still a cotton. Thursday when on this year you fast, he's a cotton. But Shabbos, when it's the real Erev Pesach, he's already a gadol. The minig is doch, so that by every child, the minig is, but for every bechor, as the fast b'makim b'noi b'chor cotton. The minig is that until the kid grows old enough, till he's by mitzvah, the father fasts on behalf of his child who's the bechor. The question is, this bechor, does the father fast, or the bechor have to fast? Is oy b'noi bechor is gevarin agadol b'erev Pesach shechol b'Shabbos? If this bechor is becoming a gadol on Shabbos, and that's the real day of Erev Pesach, see after father fasting b'yom hay other than it. Should the father fast on Thursday? Because Thursday is the kid is not bar mitzvah yet. So if the kid is not bar mitzvah yet, it's the father's responsibility to fast. Is that the real day of fasting? Or does it depend on when the real day is? If because at the real date the kid will be a gadol, it's the kid's responsibility. And the Rebbe will explain. Oy mezal onemen. If you accept, as Yom Hay is gevarin the zman chiyuv, if you accept that because you can't fast on Shabbos, now these calendar years, Thursday is the date of the chiyuv. Yom Hay is der ben nocha cotton. So if that's true, and though that year Thursday the kid is still a cotton, Da'arv's name for fasting. So the father still has to fast because he's not a gadol. The kid is not a gadol yet. Oy baber the chiyuv blight of Yom Yudal Nissen. If, however, it's really there stays on Shabbos because Shabbos is the real day. Shabbos is Erev Pesach. Und das was man fast by Yom Hay, and the only reason you're fasting on Thursday is nor begeder tashlumim. It's to make up what you can't do l'Shabbos. And then what should be is, as the Av tut garnet oif mit sein fasten b'yom hay b'shvil b'noi. The father is not doing anything for fasting for his son on Thursday. While in dem zman achiyuv is the ben agadol, because if you're talking about when the date that the person becomes obligated to fast, that kid is already a chiyuv. Them in the Av can't mitzvah sein, so the father can't fast for another bar chiyuv mit a tainis. Umemela is nit shayach kent hashlumin. There's no way to make that up. Valpizah kumtois. According to this, comes out asizda yisrain. There is some advantage when menemt on as the zman hataimis is ibgestel gevarn of yom hay. It comes out that there is something to gain if you believe that in these calendar years, instead of fasting Thursday of Shabbos, the chiyuv became on Thursday. Which is, if it's just a replacement, but it's not the real day, that Oiskumen comes out as a Bechor cotton shehigdul be'erev Pesach shechol b'Shabbos is Yitzim and Aklal. If it's just a replacement, then if a kid becomes bar mitzvah on Shabbos, he is an exception from the rule from the ganzen Indian from Tainis Becheres. He's off the hook. Why is he off the hook? Sein Vater kenem noch nit moitzi sein. His father cannot fast for him because he's going to be a gadol in the time of the chiyuv. Und allein soll fasten b'yom hay, and if he himself fasts on his behalf, be'eis is noch a cotton while he's still a kid, is the ashak k'vataya. That there is a debate. See a mitzvah of a cotton tut b'torah chinuch. Can moitzi sein den chiyuv mitzvah als gadol. Then there's a whole debate. Could a kid fast on Thursday to accomplish what he has to do while he was a gadol, while he's going to become a gadol? This is to replace what he's going to do, what he's meant to do on Shabbos as a gadol. Now he's a cotton. This is a whole big machlokes, a whole shakla v'taria. And the Rebbe quotes from Rebbe Kiva Eger. It's a question in the Hilchos Birchos Hamazon. If a kid starts eating when he was a cotton and finishes when he's a gadol, so the chiyuv of Birchos Hamazon is min haTorah. That's all discussed in the Mar Mekaymis of Ara 22. Arbe Yesh Leima, nevertheless, you could say, as a feeling, Tim Tzalaima did chiyas hatainis is tashlum instead of Pesach, even if fasting on Thursday is just a replacement, and yet the real day is Shabbos. That nitfelim dem inyan hatainis by a bechor cotton shehigdo b'yom yudalad nisr shechol b'Shabbos. Nevertheless, the kid who's becoming bar mitzvah on Shabbos, he won't be lacking anything. He won't be missing out on the concept of the fast. Why? Says the Rebbe, the explanation in this is ubahaktim. I got to give you an introduction. Now, when Purim is chol b'yom aleph, when Purim falls out on Sunday, vertainis Esther nitchel yom hey. So it's obvious, as we're speaking, Tainis Esther can't be on Shabbos, so it gets pushed back to Thursday. Und dort is doch bloß a geder tashlumim. And on Thursday, it's just a replacement. Just because of a situation, we're doing it now, but it's not the real day. Is a shaila, now we have a shaila. Kot and shehigdu b'yugdimul adar in a kviyas when Purim chol b'yom aleph. In other words, the Rebbe is shifting the question. The Rebbe is shifting the question that we had before from the Bechoros to Tainis Esther. Let's say the same conversation, Tainis Esther. When Tainis Esther gets pushed off to Thursday, what would be the din? A cotton that became bar mitzvah on Shabbos. Cotton became bar mitzvah on that Shabbos, which is the real day of Tainis Esther. How would that kid, who's only becoming bar mitzvah on Shabbos, how does he fulfill that obligation of lehisainis b'Tainis Esther? Because Shabbos, when he's bar mitzvah, you're not allowed to fast. Thursday, 2 days earlier, when it became the replacement date, he's a cotton, and a cotton can't fulfill his obligations, what he needs for a gadol. Valkan now, as mentioned before, says da shakla v'taria. It seems I fasting bekatnusay. There is a shakla v'taria. If somebody fasts, somebody does things when he's a kid. Yud Aleph Adar, he's still a kid. Al schinuch can a yoytze zayin l'mchiv begadlusay. Would it fulfill his obligations that he needs to fulfill as he's a mature adult, which is Yud Gimel Adar? So the same question we had before about Tainis Bechor would be by Tainis Esther. Und die selbe Shaila is by alle Inyanim oy welchem ezak magdimim v'loy ma'achrim. Says the Rebbe, you could ask the same question not only by these two situations, you could ask it for all the halachas, which we apply the rule that because of a situation we bring it, we establish the chiyuv to be done earlier than delaying it. If you say as is a tashlumim, that when you do it early, it's only a makeup date. In fall, when a cotton is gevarim by mitzvah b'yom achiyuv, then if a kid actually is becoming a mitzvah on the date, on the real date, how could he fulfill it to cover up what he needs as a gadol? Ula dugma. Let's bring another example, says the Rebbe. In a kviyas v'haintik in yar. Let's take this year's kviyas. When Purim from Arim b'kafetz chayma, the Purim from the cities that are surrounded with a wall, which is Tes Vavadar, is chol b'Shabbos. Purim is on Shabbos. Purim is on Friday. Purim is on Friday. Shushan Purim is Shabbos. So the Mukafes Chayma can't read Megillah on Shabbos because Shabbos, you don't read the Megillah. What do? Is makdim kriyas a Megillah Yudalad, because they can't read the Megillah on Shabbos. They read the Megillah Yudalad other. What's Yudalad other? Friday. Now, what happens to a kid who became a bar mitzvah, becoming a bar mitzvah on Shabbos? So yesterday, Friday, he wasn't a gadol. Is that Tashlumim, if Friday is only a Tashlumim, some chiyuv from Tezvav ba'adar b'Shabbos, is v'staf tan a cotton shehigdo b'yom Tezvav adar. What should a cotton do if his real chiyuv is Shabbos? Do we say that Friday becomes just a replacement, or Friday is a real chiyuv? And if it's a real chiyuv, then that's at that point he's still a cotton. Yeshleim Abazah says the Rebbe, the general answer to all these three is al derech v'memuzdach zogen b'chlal. It's based on what we generally have to say as a cotton, that every youngster, val derech zev yisayim rizeh, and even more so, ein of us greitzich megayer zayin, or a ger who's preparing himself to convert. So a cotton who's becoming a gadol, preparing himself to become a bar chiyuv, or a ger who's preparing himself to become a mechuyev b'mitzvahs. Is mechuyev tzilanim the halachas and mitzuyas. They all, before they jump into the sea and become a bar chiyuva, they have to learn something to know what are the malachas, the hilchas hamitzvahs. They have to learn them. The hilchas hamitzvahs, the halachas with the common mitzvahs, like tefillin, krishmia, velche evert muzim mekayim zayin tekev evert a gadol. Right when he becomes a bar chiyuv, right away certain mitzvahs come in. He has to learn that noch eider evert a gadol. He has to be prepared. If you're going to rely that he's going to start learning only when he's 13 years old, he won't know. Days will pass as he's already a gadol, and he won't know how to fulfill the mitzvahs. Thus haste. In other words, even though he's a cotton, even though he's a ger, there still must be a obligation. Zayin dik a cotton, as he's still a youngster, sich zugreiten of zukenen mekayim zayin chiyuvim, to prepare himself that he should be able to be ready to fulfill all his obligations. Ven ervet a gadol. So when he's a gadol, he is ready. Al derech machshirei mitzvah. Says the Rebbe, you could compare it to all the utensils that you need to have a mitzvah done. You can't have a bris milah without the izema, without the knife. So those are all machshirei mitzvah. The same thing. A kid can't become a gadol ready to do mitzvahs unless he knows in advance what he has to do. So same should be in this. Same is how we look at these issues. As is a chiyuv from cotton to lane in the Megillah b'yom Yudalid. There is for sure a chiyuv on every child that close enough to, especially close enough to the age of bar mitzvah, to read the Megillah b'yom Yudalid. Mekendach nitzogin, you cannot say, and the Rebbe says, and I can't imagine anybody should say something shocking like this. Like what? As kotna now is the yarn lifnei ze mechuyev Megillah b'teres chinuch, and the yarn la'achar ze mechuyev, and them yarben tayim is a potter. It makes no sense to say that the years leading up he's mechuyev only b'teres chinuch to educate himself, and the years after his bar mitzvah he's a mechuyev. And in the year Beintayim is a potter, and in between he's completely potter. It makes no sense to say as is mechuyev b'teres chinuch, that he's only obligated to educate. Chach as b'shanim akrovis v'talenim b'tezvav, even though in the future years, because he lives in these cities, he's going to read in Tezvav. Mitzad dem was yorin shpeter v'zaynas akvius, because years later there will be such as kvius where Tezvav will be the day where he has to read the Megillah. Umistaber loymar. So it makes sense to say, Das is a chiyuv gedei to yoytze zayin dem chiyuv was wird zayin oifim chol zayin als gola b'yom tazvav, that reading the Megillah now and that day is a chiyuv to fulfill, which eventually he will have on Yom Tezvav, das heißt, as zayin leinen the Megillah als cotton. Now, when a cotton is close enough to bar mitzvah, when he reads the Megillah, is nitnar als chinuch. It's not only as education, no, the takanas chachamim is chatchila. Rather, the chachamim established the mitzvah in such a way from the get-go that chal even cotton als hechsher to zayin chiyuv als gadol. It's you have to read it. So when you're a gadol, you know you have the full obligation. Da'rab says oich ben yanenu. So too in our case, afilu emevet anemin. Even if you accept as tainis b'chayris b'yom hey, that when Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos and you're fasting on Thursday, is tashlumim l'yom Shabbos. Even if you accept that the fasting on Thursday for time is b'chayrim is just a replacement, that's only by the tainis b'chayrim. Yesh makom leimar, there still is a place to say, as a cotton shehigdo b'yom yudal nisan, if the cotton actually became bar mitzvah on Erev Pesach, which is on Shabbos, so zayin mechuyev to fasting b'yom hey. Even though it's a replacement, but even if it's a replacement, the kid that's not yet bar mitzvah, but it's going to be bar mitzvah in 2 days, he must be mechuyev to fast on that Thursday. Als hechsher, as preparation, not als chinuch, als hechsher to zayin chiyuv, because in 2 days he will be obligated. This is the way how an obligated person knows what he's doing. Als hechsher to zayin chiyuv, was vet avim zayin chal als gadol, which will be b'yom yudalid.